I always shoot you straight. I always tell you what's on my mind and what's in my heart and what's in my soul. Certainly when it comes to sports. Well, that's it, sir. So if it's Michigan or Yankees, obviously, those are the two sporting entities that still have like an emotional pull on me, right? Mm-hmm. So if those two should cross, for instance, you have me at hello, right? And there's certain folks who our booking staff know are anytime guests. If they're on a press tour or they want to come on or whatever, the answer is an immediate yes, which it was for me when I received this opportunity to have our next guest on during the American Century Championship. I try to tap out, but there's still business of this show. I said yes on the spot. Boom. I hearted it, as a matter of fact. It was a heart. It wasn't one of those thumbs up. It was a heart. Because this man has it beating in his chest. Southpaw, The Life and Legacy of Jim Abbott, premiered last night on ESPN, is now available for streaming on ESPN+. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Abbott back on the Rich Eisen Show. Only way I can introduce you, brother. Good to see you. Look at you, man. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. I'm doing great. I'm up here in the woods in northern Michigan.
Okay.
And enjoying summertime, and I appreciate the kind introduction.
It's the truth.
Right back at you. Go blue. We're almost. I think we're almost exact contemporaries in Ann Arbor.
I think so too, Jim. I was in the class of '90. Weren't you in '89? Were you '89 or '88?
I would have been '89.
Okay.
I left in '88 for the Olympic team,
right.
And for the
Who was on that Olympic team in '88?
Oh, it was one of the great teams I've ever been on. It was all amateurs at that point, so there was nobody, there was no professionals. We had Ben McDonald, Robin Ventura, Tino Martinez, Charlie Nagy, just a great group of college players and coaches, and won a gold medal in Seoul, Korea, and it was one of the highlights of my life.
So, how many games did you start for Team USA, Jim?
I don't know how many I started, but I know I started and finished the last one.
Okay.
I was out there for that ninth inning and that gold medal, and ground ball to Ventura. He threw a perfect strike across the infield to Tino Martinez, and we celebrated like dumb baseball players do. I was at the bottom of that pile.
What was it like? Again, awesome. A perfect question to ask somebody who's wearing, an American flag on the hat here. What was it like for you, medal ceremony, hearing the national anthem? Jim, what was that like for you?
It was insane. It was, the Olympics for us, baseball players, it's strange. You see these great athletes and you see them walking around the village and you know that they're built for their competition, that you can almost tell what they do just by looking at them. And their individual accomplishments are crazy. I'm a huge Olympics fan, but I was so thankful to stand on that podium with 24 other teammates, because it was the elation we felt, the excitement we felt was so shared and palpable that it was just one of the most incredible, indelible feelings of my life.
Well, I remember seeing you play at the University of Michigan, Jim, and I might have told you this story the last time you've been on or whatever, so forgive me. We have a new audience here anyway, potentially. I remember because I covered the Michigan baseball team. It was the first big beat that I got for the Michigan Daily, the greatest student publication known to man. And I remember Bud Midall was your manager, was your coach, and it was a doubleheader. And you started the first game, and I think you pitched a shutout. I just remember you were incredibly impressive. But the second game, Midall put you at the plate to prove to a whole bunch of National League scouts that you could hit, despite the fact that you were born without a right hand. Do you remember that day and what you did up at the plate that day, Jim, or you don't remember? Because I remember.
I wish I had one of those brains that remembers every game. Some guys I know every pitch, but I don't remember. I remember pitching, obviously there, but I don't remember hitting.
Well, you laced a line drive to the gap for an extra base hit, Jim. And I remember that there were a bunch of scouts because I saw their briefcases in which they brought their jugs gun, and there was like the Giants, there were the Mets, there were all sorts of National League scouts that were in the crowd. Did you feel you had to prove yourself to National League scouts when you were coming up back in the day, Jim?
Well, I think they knew I could hit. I just had to prove my speed. That was the
Right.
No, I didn't think too much about that. I always fancied myself a pretty good hitter from high school on, and none of my coaches seemed to agree. I did end up playing for the Brewers at the end of my career, and got two base hits in the big leagues, both off of John Lieber,
Nice.
uh, one in Wrigley Field, which is another 2-hour documentary we can talk about. But I loved hitting. The only thing I really know about hitting is that it's hard to do. I faced Greg Maddux in the big leagues one time, and every pitch seemed to be coming out of the same exact hand location, and every pitch was just a little bit different. So it's really hard. Even what you would classify as an average MLB pitcher um, is incredible. The talent level is amazing. The time you have, the lack of time you have to react is insane.
I'm going to take a stab at this. Were Larkin and Sabo teammates of yours at any point in time at Michigan, or
They were
you
both,
didn't overlap?
Larkin would have been a senior when I was a freshman,
Okay.
and he went pro with the Reds, and I believe that's the same thing for Sabo and
Okay.
Larkin after that. But they had some great teams just before I got there.
No doubt. No doubt. Jim Abbott here on the Rich Eisen Show. Obviously, let's talk about September 4th, 1993. I just saw Baker Mayfield at the American Century Championship, so I'll ask a Mayfield-related sort of question. Did you wake up dangerous that day, Jim? Did you wake up dangerous that morning on September 4th, 1993?
I love that. No, actually, the opposite. To be dead truthful, I was, I had been traded to the Yankees. It hadn't been a perfect season to me to that point. I faced the Indians in my previous start in Cleveland. Got shelled, didn't make it out of the third inning. There were whispers of, disappointment within the organization and in the media. And that was the backdrop. I didn't feel dangerous going to the ballpark that morning. In fact, the game felt dangerous to me. And, it was magical. Things just went right. My teammates made incredible plays. And I loved pitching in Yankee Stadium. It was a day game. Matty Noakes was our catcher that day, and his enthusiasm, and Donnie Mattingly at first, and Wade Boggs had an incredible game at third base, and just a magical day when everything went right.
Look at that picture on the screen right there. What made you? What does this bring back for you right here?
Just the joy. Look at Mike Gallego there. He must be 4 feet in the air for him to be.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's Boggs that he's kind of riding horseback right there. You know what I mean? To use another Boggs moment in the history of Yankee Stadium. I think that's. And then a look at Matt Noakes there, a longtime Tiger as well, from the state of Michigan there. I mean, I'm just wondering what this moment elicits from you right now, Jim.
Just the joy, just like the Olympics, the shared experience. Matty Noakes, look at the excitement on his face, and Wade Boggs was a tremendous teammate. And what I loved about Boggsy, and there's a lot of funny stories about Wade, and he'll even tell them himself. He loved and had a deep appreciation for the history of the game, for the Red Sox, for the Yankees. He took it very, very seriously. Every at bat, he took his fielding, the conditioning of the field. And after that no hitter, there was a gleam in his eyes. I picked up on it. He was like, he was more excited than I was about just the history of what was going on. And I'll never forget that reaction.
Yeah. And I'm just, again, wondering, you mentioned how, you get shelled in the start before. It makes sense, too, Jim. I mean, Lofton, Carlos Baerga, Albert Bell, Manny Ramirez, Jim Thome in the lineup on the day you threw that no-hitter against those guys. That's a hell of a lineup. I mean, and I'm wondering if any memories of the game about pitching to these guys and what the stresses it might have put on you while you were doing this thing.
Yeah. In doing the film with Jeremy Schaap, who's the interviewer and reporter, he's so great.
He's the best, man. No doubt.
Oh my God. He's encyclopedic with his knowledge of baseball. And I think he added up all the home runs in that lineup, and it was some extraordinary amount that you would probably rank up there with a lot of different teams. But you know what I remember, Rich, is I remember getting to the ballpark early, and Matty Noakes, like you mentioned, former Tiger, he wasn't our primary catcher, so he was in the lineup for a day game. Still a great ball player, and he showed up with the Indians lineup card, and we were going over all their strengths, Lofton's speed, and Baerga's, average, and Bell's power. And Manny Ramirez just got called up to that team. And finally, Matty just threw the lineup card on the table and said, you know what? I don't care about what they do. Let's get back to what you do best. Let's mix it up a little bit. Let's throw a few more breaking balls. But for the most part, you see my mitt and you throw it through my mitt. Let's trust it. And that was the game plan. I loved Yankee Stadium. The national anthem played. I wiped off the pitching rubber and just set out on this course that would honestly change my life.
When did you realize that this could be happening?
I didn't really think about it much until after the sixth inning was over. I was sitting in the dugout, and everybody knows baseball's dumb superstition. Teammates get a little bit quieter in the dugout. There's an acknowledgement kind of what's going on, and but I knew how fickle something like this is. And I had a no-hitter a few weeks before that in the eighth inning against the White Sox. I jammed Bo Jackson with a good pitch, and he hit it out to center field for a single. So I knew the fates kind of have to be lined up. And that was helpful, to be honest, because it was like there was this letting go of result. It's just about making good pitches and just being out there and enjoying the moment. And that ninth inning, I felt it in every cell of my body, the breathing, the knees, the heart, everything. It was just unbelievable.
You did, huh? I love that. What did you say? Letting go of the result. That's pretty neat, man. That's some good sports psychology right there, Jim. You're just having to execute in the ninth inning. And again, Baerga being the last out too, man. I mean, that's something, Jim.
Yeah.
You
have to. I mean, it's like golf in that way. You can hit a good shot and things can go awry easily. And so you have to settle yourself into making a good swing. Not that I have any business talking about golf mindset, but that's what pitching is. It's letting go of result and making the highest quality pitch that you possibly can and doing it over and over again and letting things fall where they may. And in that day, for sure, there was a certain peacefulness in that approach.
A few minutes left here with Jim Abbott. Southpaw, The Life and Legacy of Jim Abbott. Again, premiered last night on ESPN, available now for streaming on ESPN+. It's a Jeremy Schaap production, essentially, for E60, which means it's spectacular in its own right, and the story, obviously, is something to behold. You got a good Mattingly story? I mean, he is my favorite baseball player of my generation, if you will. My daughter's middle name is Mattingly. I adore the guy. I think he is just the man. But you got a good Mattingly story for me, Jim Abbott, please?
Rich, put me in the same category. I love Donnie Mattingly, and I loved him more after being a teammate with him. We showed up to spring training. It was my first spring training with the Yankees. Mm-hmm. And we're going through the mundane, boring pitchers fielding practice on the backfield in Fort Lauderdale. The position players don't even have to be in spring training yet. Mm-hmm. And out walks Donnie Mattingly, full uniform, has his glove. He walks out to this backfield and he jumps into the PFP most boring drill just because he wanted to get a feel for all the pitchers on the team and how they covered first base and their speed getting over there. And he wanted them to get a feel for the way he liked to communicate. And that's just who Donnie was. I mean, you can take him out of Evansville, but you can't take Evansville out of the boy. And he was cool as could be. He could wear a sport coat with turtles on it and a turquoise bracelet. And you'd go, yep, that works, Donnie. That's perfect.
Right. I feel the same way. And then, that was 94, I think is the year you're talking about, your first year of spring training with the Yankees, a year after your no-hitter. And that, Mattingly was breaking down physically, unfortunately. And he still finished top 20 in the MVP voting that year with his umpteenth gold glove of his career. And it's just a killer to me that the Yankees just went on that dynastic run the year after he left. I mean, it still hurts me as a
It
person.
Anyone deserved it, he did. And even when he was hurt, even if he had a pulled rib cage muscle or something, he would still take batting practice. He wouldn't swing, but he would watch pitches come in to stay sharp, and he could move around the Yankee clubhouse from the group of relief pitchers to the starting pitchers to the position players, and he moved effortlessly and seamlessly through all those different clicks. He was the captain for a reason, and he was Derek Jeter before Derek Jeter.
Last one for you in terms of memory lane for this. You mentioned earlier, Jim, that you heard rumblings about some disappointment within Yankee management after you got shelled by Cleveland. That sounds like that could come from a certain shipbuilder from the city of Cleveland who did not like losing, period, let alone to the hometown team from Cleveland. And George M. Steinbrenner III, the owner of the New York Yankees. Would I be accurate in saying some of those rumblings came from that particular office of the Yankees, Jim?
Would be very accurate.
Yep, but I'm sure he might have been the first one after you threw that no-hitter in Yankee Stadium against Cleveland. Whatever he might have been upset about went out the window right there. What was he like after you throwing that no-hitter, Jim?
Rich, he was amazing. There was a bottle of champagne, a magnum of champagne in my locker. I got a beautiful engraved cigar box made for the Yankee organization. And I went to Yankee Stadium last week. I threw out the first pitch. I went in the booth with Paul O'Neill and Michael Kay and Susan Wellman, all the group. And they just rolled out the red carpet. And I was struck, honestly, for all the talk of the tumultuousness of the Yankee organization. There were so many friends in the front office, in security, in every role who were still there. And it was emotional. There was a lot of hugs and just the way, their welcome, their generosity with this film has been absolutely heartwarming to me. It means a lot.
Do you still have stuff from that day? What do you got?
Oh,
what do you have?
Yeah, I have my favorite memorabilia. I got to the ballpark the next day, and the grounds crew, Frankie was, I forget, I don't have his last name right now, but Frankie was the leader of the grounds crew. And people don't know, Frankie was also missing a hand like I am. And when I got to the ballpark the next morning, slight headache, they called the grounds crew called me on the field, and they dug out the pitching rubber out of the mound, and they had every player on the Yankees sign it. And
wow.
Yeah, for people who don't know, the pitching rubber is a big hunk of rubber and metal, and it's not easy to get out of the ground. And they pulled it out. They had everybody sign it, and we took a picture with it, and it sits in my office to this day. It's my proudest piece of memorabilia from my career.
Jeez. Before I let you go, Jim, what do you want people to know about your story? Obviously, there's this beautiful film that Jeremy Schaap put all of his heart and soul into, which means it's beautiful and it's a heck of a story. But I'll just give you the last word here on what you want people to know, Jim Abbott.
And Mike Farrell directed it and edited it, and I tip my cap to them. I just want them to know, Rich, whether it's me pitching or you doing your show or whatever it is that you might be doing, going about your job, going about your passion, raising a family, there's people watching, and there's people seeing how you go about that. And there's people that you can make an impact with by going just a little above and beyond. And this story talks a lot about the kids and the families that we worked with the Yankees, with the Angels throughout my career, that I didn't think it was that big a deal to meet with them in the corridors of these stadiums. And yet you see the things that they're doing now, doctors and lawyers and MMA fighters and football players, Shaquem Griffin. It's an amazing, impactful thing to know that you can make that kind of difference in somebody's life.
Jim Abbott, you're awesome, man. You're awesome, and I'd love having you on whenever you want. There's always a place here for you on my program. Thanks for everything that you've done and what you stand for, and go blue, sir. Go blue.
Blue, I'm a big fan, Rich. Thanks for having me again.
Jim Abbott, thank you, sir. Jim Abbott, Southpaw, The Life and Legacy of Jim Abbott is now available on ESPN Plus. Please take the time to go stream it, and that means you can get it right here on Roku. Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.